What's the greatest obstacle or challenge facing you on your path to becoming financially free? For most of us, it's the time it takes to even focus on it. We're so busy with our lives that we don't even know where to start. Come join Joey and I and the team in Nashville, Tennessee, August 9th through the 11th, as we break down the different ways that you can become financially free and introduce you to different strategies and speakers who can help you on that first step.
You have questions? This event is designed to give you the answers, to take action fast, to turn the decades it's taken us to learn this and turn them into days. Don't hesitate. Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/live. And don't forget to use the promo code podcast to get a deep discount.
Wealth Without Wall Street Tribe, so excited to introduce my good friend, Dr. Jeff Anzalone today. Jeff, thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me, Joey. Looking forward to it.
You may know him as the debt-free doctor. And but he wasn't always the debt-free doctor. In fact, Jeff, at some point in your life, you were a periodontist, and that's all that you could kind of see. But something changed. Something made you say, I got to change something. I got to create multiple streams of income. Why was that? Take us to that moment.
I was about 40 years old, so I'd practiced for about 10 years. And I had gone through the Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to do what most dentists do and work until you're 70 and live off a 401k, because that's all I thought, you did. And maybe because I was 40, I still thought I was, like I was in college, you're kind of like invincible, and went snow skiing. And unfortunately, I fell, injured my wrist. Luckily, it wasn't anything permanent, but I mean, it was enough to make me think, wait a minute, if I can't use my hands, it's kind of hard to work on teeth without hands, I couldn't provide for my family. And really, that was the wake-up call to say, you know what, Jeff, you really need to start doing something more of it like an insurance policy for your family and kids, because just focusing on one income stream, it's not going to get it.
Well, and so tell me, though, you probably had some sort of disability insurance policy or whatever, but what was it? I mean, that would kind of take care of the bills, right? If something was permanent, but what was it that changed like mentally for you that you're like, I have to change what I've been doing?
Maybe after dealing with dental insurance for 10 years, it's terrible. So I didn't even register with disability insurance, because no telling how many hoops you have to jump through. And at that time, it didn't have near enough to continue our lifestyle. Plus, I didn't want to have to rely on some sort of insurance company to pay for my bills the rest of my life. I'm not wired like that. And it really bothered me that it was almost like I had failed to set up my family as far as, like, the man's the provider of the family. To me, at that point, I felt like, I'm kind of a failure, because this is just so risky operating like this. It's not like I work behind a desk and at a computer and you break your arm or hand or leg or whatever. Life goes on. But this is my livelihood, and how to really do something to protect it moving forward.
Oh, you were the single point of failure in your own business.
Yep.
And I want to just dig in there for just a second, though, Jeff, is you're not unlike everybody else, right? There are people who are listening right now who have a false sense of security in what they do or where they work, that the company that they work for today will be there tomorrow, right? And I got to be honest with you, as stewards of what God's given us, we all need a wake-up call, right? That we should be taking the money that we have and turning it into multiple income streams for the very basic understanding that we do provide for our families. And this is a plan. This is a way to grow what we've been given, but more importantly, to also produce a defense mechanism, right? If something does go wrong and you lose that job, or you get a sickness or illness, like, we're not guaranteed any of those things. And what was that like whenever you were talking to your wife after that incident? Like, what was going on in that conversation?
Well, I didn't really say too much about it because I was kind of embarrassed, you know, and I really took a deep dive to start studying how wealthy people operate, because when you get out of dental school, yeah, you have a good income, but you just kind of look at all the other dentists and you're just focused on that, you know, whatever your profession is, if you're an attorney or accountant or whatever, you're just kind of looking at how those people operate, only going to dental meetings, only around dentists that are just going there to learn about how to better their practice. There's nothing wrong with that, because that's our biggest wealth building tool is our income. So I do want people to get focused on that. But some of the differences when I started studying these wealthy people between them and we could just call the high income professional, the typical high income professional is, you know, if you sit next to one of these cats on a plane, first class, and you say, hey, what do you do for a living? They don't say, I am a doctor, I am a lawyer, I am a whatever. They say, I own. That's a big difference. I own real estate. I own businesses. They're owners. And 90+% of them have real estate in their portfolio. At that time, I had zero. And here's the biggest kicker for me was the average wealthy person had anywhere from 7 to 10 income streams. That never registered to me. It's like, okay, everybody's always focused on, okay, I'm producing in my practice or your salary. What do you make? And, you know, you make $200 a year or $400 a year. You're always just focused on me, that one income stream. And I didn't, you know, and then once you really start seeing how they work, it's like, well, that's why you always hear the billionaires, they don't pay any taxes because they have all these different income streams, and those are the lowest tax income streams versus the high income professional, active income, highest tax stream. So it was almost like, and I used to play golf, and I don't anymore because it's so frustrating, but I had to, like, you know, everything that you thought you had to do, like if you want to hit the ball far, you know, you had to like tighten up, swing hard, do all this, but it's like, no, it's the opposite. You relax, everything's real loose. So everything that I had learned in golf, I had to relearn. Everything that I learned about money and finances, I had to relearn it because it was totally wrong with taxes too. So it was fun because, hey, I've got something to do. I've got all this ahead of me. And the thing is, that was my why. And the reason why people fail with any goal is they don't have a strong enough why. For me, it was like, it didn't matter what happened. If I failed at this and I messed up, and which I did multiple times, I was going to keep going. And if you have a strong enough why, then you're going to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Jeff, I love that, like, your first step from having this incident was, I got to educate myself. Right. And I love that you had a model, a wealthy person is the person I need to study because I'm not there. Right. There's a gap between where I'm at and where I want to be. We actually talk about in our book, the GPS model, right? The goal, plan, and support. But the idea that you have to have a destination and you have to know where you're at in order to have the next steps really properly outlined for you. And,
you know, it's funny you say that. I have that written on this piece of paper right here on my desk. And it says this: if you don't know where you're going, how do you know how to get there?
100%. Yeah. In fact, one of our coaches is an airline pilot, and he'll say, if you don't tell me where you're headed, I can't help you know how to pack. Right? Doesn't matter what to put in the suitcase. You got to know where you're headed. Mm-hmm. So talk about the very first step for you was education. Now, that's great, but you had to take some sort of action. What was the first thing you did once you kind of gathered these truths? You said, okay, well, these guys have 7 to 10 income streams. What was the first thing you did to maybe emulate that or create that?
Well, it really helped me narrow down my focus that I needed to invest in real estate for multiple income streams. So I've got some friends here from my hometown in Monroe, Louisiana, that their families have a bunch of property. So I started meeting with them thinking, because the only thing that I knew about real estate was I go out, I buy a house, and I put a tenant in it.
Yep.
That's what I thought real estate was. And that was really, you know, you can go buy an apartment and self-storage and all that. That is the only way I thought you could make money in real estate. So I started meeting with them, going to lunch. Then we started looking at different properties. So that was, I can tell you the whole thing, but you asked me what the first step was, and that was the first step. Find somebody, as you know, that's the cheat code to success. You find somebody that either has what you want or is doing what you want, and pay them or get them to mentor you instead of trying to reinvent the wheel.
I love that. Having a coach, having a mentor who's got what you're looking for. That's a critical thing. You can pick the wrong mentor. You can pick the wrong coach who maybe has flashy YouTube page or a flashy website or whatever, but are they doing the things that you're trying to accomplish? I love that. And the fact that they're in your hometown was even better. What was the first acquisition that you made?
Well, I was getting ready to buy a single family home here, and there was a dentist teaching, a retired dentist teaching other dentists about real estate in Dallas. I'm only 4 hours from Dallas, so I decided to go to the conference. I don't think there was a charge or whatever, but he had like this mastermind group, and I'm really glad that I went because it opened my eyes. I was thinking I was going to go learn about how to, invest the quote traditional way in real estate, but I learned all the different other ways, kind of like at your events, where you're teaching all these different ways that you can make money passively with real estate. And to me, that was really important because, as I just stated earlier, our biggest wealth building tool is our primary income, our W-2 income, 1099 income. And I didn't want to take my time away from dealing with tenants and that sort of thing. And that was, initially, everything's changed now. But when I first started, and that's when I first heard about real estate syndications. And at that time, that was the new thing was crowdfunding and real estate syndication. So that is what I thought was where I needed to start.
Okay, so you had your sights set on buying just a single family, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, there's this whole syndication thing. What was it about that interested you?
It was, you didn't have to put up a ton of money. Most of the deals when I started looking was, 50 grand, some of them 100, but 50 grand. And it wasn't like you had to put down like $300,000 or $400,000 if you wanted to buy, a big property or something. But I really liked it to where it was hands off. Somebody else was doing everything for me. I could stay focused on my practice. And then instead of taking my money, putting it in the stock market, like I have been for the last 10 years, I could put it in something that can give me a return now to start replacing my expenses. So if something did happen to me, I wasn't doing this to make more money. I was just doing this more as a sort of my own insurance policy, my own disability, my passive disability policy, so to speak. If something happened to me where I couldn't work, I was 40 at the time. If I couldn't work for another 30 years, I had something to fall back on.
All right. And so how did that first syndication work out for you? Like, was it a win? Was it lessons learned? What happened?
I started off, this was 2015, 2016-ish, crowdfunding. And when I tell you I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing, but I thought I did. And for those that don't know what crowdfunding is, those are those websites where they put up all the pictures and you look at them. But you could actually go in, some of these like $500, like really low. So I started doing some of those, and this is how I would pick my deal. I would look at the pictures, then I would look at the numbers, and it was like, okay, whatever IRR stands for, or whatever, ROI stands for, that number is higher over here than it is over here. So click. That's what I did. So the first few were okay, $500, $1,000, not a big deal. So after about, 6-8 months, I was like, hey, I'm going to go all in, and I'm going to do a $50,000 apartment syndication it was called Realty Shares. It was bought by another company or whatever now, realtyshares.com. And apartment complex in Oklahoma, put the 50 grand in, and I kind of forgot about it. And after maybe like 4, 5, 6 months later, I noticed, hey, I hadn't really had much communication from this group. And I logged into my portal, and they had like a little something in there. And then I started getting emails from people, I guess, that found out, I guess they found out, I don't know how, that I was an investor and they were investors too. And the whole thing, everybody lost their money in a nutshell.
Oh, no.
And what happened was the sponsor didn't disclose that he was moving into, he bought an apartment it was Tulsa, in a crime-ridden area, and all the people were moving out, and he got the bright idea that if he fixed up the apartment, people would move back in. And then he ran out of money and left town. And needless to say, Realty Shares went under and somebody else bought them out or whatever. But if I didn't have a strong enough why, I would have stopped there and I would have said, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. But that was a huge turning point from me going, I'm never going to do crowdfunding again, because I couldn't go out and meet the sponsors. So I really changed my direction to where now, well, at that point, I was going to meetings. I was meeting sponsors. I was meeting limited partners. I was doing those sorts of things and really getting to know them, getting to walk the projects to get more comfortable. And then I started doing that, and then it got better after that.
Tribe, listen up. We're entering into the election year. This is the time where people are going to get super fearful. We're going to see businesses start to dry up. We're going to see opportunities, though, pile up for us only if we're prepared.
That's right. You get to choose right now. Will you allow this time frame to negatively affect you and your business and your investments? Or will you be prepared to take advantage of these huge opportunities that come on the backside of this because you're prepared with cash?
Let's get our house in order. If you haven't already maximized the infinite banking concept in your life, here's the chance for you to start learning. Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/IBC. Take our free webinar so that you can start getting equipped with the things that you need to know so that you can take action on this looming event.
What a great lesson. I know it's an expensive lesson, right? $50,000 is not something that you take lightly, but man, being able to know who you're investing with. In fact, we talk about this in our book, actually, talking about location is what the three key points of real estate, right? But the three key points of hands-off investing is operator, right? And if you have no idea who that person is, you don't know their track record, you haven't done the due diligence, you haven't reached out to them and physically or at least verbally talked with them about their business plan and about, their vision for what they're trying to accomplish. I mean, you are really setting yourself up to lose. And so from that standpoint, you could have really gone backwards and said, you know what, this whole alternative investing thing isn't for me. I've lost money. Now I'm just going to put my head down and just work harder. But to your point, that wasn't an option because that doesn't solve the problem. And so why was it that you continued down this path instead of maybe just doing stock market investing or something else like that?
Yeah, I knew I couldn't fail my family. I had that strong why, and I knew it could be done because there's several, there's lots of other people that do it. And I had to figure out a way to do it differently. And luckily I connected with another doctor that told me about another meeting in Dallas, but this one was more of a conference for both sponsors and limited partners, which was totally different than the other one. The guy was just educating and then just had some people pitching deals. But and they talked a little bit about crowdfunding, but now I knew I wanted just to focus on syndications to where I was able to do my own due diligence. I was able to be more hands-on, so to speak. And that's where I started from after that.
All right. So was it always in the multifamily space, or where did you go from there after that first deal?
Yeah, probably the first 7 or 8 deals I did was multifamily. And, that was back when, multifamily was just rolling. And that, because, for 10, 11 years during my training, I lived in apartments. So I understood apartments and that sort of thing. So it was familiar to me, unlike self-storage or something else that wasn't quite familiar. So at that point, that's where I started at.
And what from like how long before because I know that's not where you ended up, right? You've done other things since then. What sort of things are you investing now as opposed to just the multifamily space?
I was able to, well, the kind of the way that I got to other asset classes was I started taking everything that I was learning, like what I'm telling you, and I started my blog, debtfreedoctor.com, just to educate people, educate other doctors, dentists, high-income professionals, because I knew that I wasn't the only one this happened to, you know. And so I started like a little following, and I was getting ready to invest in a Dallas apartment complex with a group, and I only had like maybe 220 people on my email list at that time. They'd like, "Hey Jeff, you're getting ready to invest with us. If we go through and, you know, legally make you like a co-general partner," which I didn't know what that was at the time, "would you want to see if some people want to on your list want to invest alongside of you?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, okay." So literally all I did was take their email that they were sending out to their list, and I changed it up, you know, to make it sound like it came from me. And I sent out an email, and then I sent out an email 48 hours later, and then they contacted me and they said, because they were sending out an email to their list, okay? And they said, "Hey, look, you know, we filled the deal. You don't have to send out any more emails." And they said, "How long have you been doing this?" And I said, "Doing what?" Like raising capital. I was like, "What is that?" Like, you know, you helped us raise capital. You raised $2.4 million in 48 hours. I was like, "What? What did you say?" You know? So that was how I got into the raising capital and started working with other sponsors, which led me to self-storage, which led me to short-term rentals, which led me to mobile home parks, and eventually what I do now, RV parks. So I kind of need to give you the little backstory to get you there.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And so, man, I'm just hearing your story. It's like you go from, I need to solve a problem, to I'm going to educate myself, to I'm going to take steps of action towards what the wealthy do with their money, to now all of a sudden, because you're being abundant with that information that you're learning, other people are like, "Hey, I want to invest alongside you." And you mentioned some different asset classes. We probably don't have time to like dig into each one individually, but there's a reason that you've ended up in this RV park space. Like, talk about what are those benefits or the things that kind of get you fired up the most about that space?
Well, you know, it was different, but, you know, I was used to it because, you know, I'm around a lot of RV parks in Louisiana. Plus, you know, all the apartment syndications that I'm in, I think but one have quit paying. So that was also, you know, something that I need to start looking at. And you know, I know they'll come back, but as of right now, you know, things have made it difficult for operators to pay. And I get that with expenses, but literally everything that I like about RV parks, it's so different than multifamily. So for instance, with multifamily, the reason why a lot of these sponsors are hurting is because the insurance is just going sky high with no claims filed. Taxes are going up, the maintenance, you know, upkeep. RV parks, taxes to insure them is way less. You know, if a hurricane's coming, you just tell people to pack up their stuff and go. You know, you just got a bunch of concrete pads, you know. So it's not as expensive to insure versus a 200-unit building, you know.
Right.
Another thing that I like about it is you have 3 different types of tenants. In an apartment, you have, you know, a long-term tenant, 6 months, 12 months. Well, you've got the typical transient tenant, nightly tenant, which you can charge the most. You can, you know, change your rate. Then you got the people that work in the area that may rent from you on a weekly or monthly basis. And then you have more of a permanent long-term person that'll stay there for years. So even if you're in an area, let's say you're in a beach area, even if it's seasonal, you still have the people working and you still have the people that live there. And you have so many different streams of income that we get, you know, a more quality Wi-Fi in a certain area, ice, propane. We own 24 parks now, and we've got a couple of resorts, golf cart rentals, arcades, laundry. So there's all these different little things that most of these mom and pops that we're buying from, they don't do. And literally we just go in and we just plug in our system. We're vertically integrated. We self-manage it, and we just add these things, and it's just instant NOI. So I mean, I love it.
What talk? That's really cool. So like all these ancillary things are value add opportunities that you can come in that didn't ever exist before and may have been profitable even as is, but now you add these other things and it's just like, whoa, gangbusters, we're growing significantly. Talk about how are the taxes from a benefit to you as an investor in these RV parks? What's the good, bad, ugly on taxes?
Yeah, it's a great question. My accountant's great. He probably, out of all the accountants in the country, probably puts out the most content, therealestatecpa.com. And I had him on my podcast and I asked him, I said, tell me about what you just asked me. Tell me about the taxes and the depreciation if somebody were to invest in an apartment or a short-term rental, self-storage, RV park, or mobile home park. And he said, based on the thousands of investors they do tax returns with, plus the different cost segregation study specialists, if, the typical apartment, maybe 15 first year depreciation, about 15%, maybe 20% of the purchase price, versus RV park and mobile home park, anywhere from 70 to 90% year one depreciation. And all that has to do with the majority of it is in the land improvements, because that's a big, because there's not a lot of these structures and buildings that you're doing the cost seg on. It's the land improvements. And that is how we're getting it. So we have some doctors in our group, our passive investing group, that their spouse is a real estate professional status. And, we got an allergist in I think Georgia, and literally he knows how to play the game. He'll invest $1 million with us to not send the government $1 million. And he owns all this property because his wife is a real estate professional, because you get all that upfront depreciation year one. And he's really happy about that, if you can only imagine.
Wow. No, I love that. I had no idea that there was a way to get to 70 to 90% on those type of projects. Man, this has been really cool to hear your story, where you came from, where you're headed. Before we get into like the next steps for you, like I want to look 5 to 10 years from now, if you can kind of give us that picture. Before we do that, we mentioned up front, and you mentioned it a couple of times, that you're the debt-free doctor. And early on, you start writing about how you're getting out of debt and things like that. Has your thoughts on debt changed at all from the point where you first started down that road to today, as it relates to the wealthy, let's say?
Yeah, great question. As I mentioned earlier, I was a big Dave Ramsey follower for the first 7 to 10 years. And I went through his baby steps and paid off that first house. And, he's like, never go into debt again. But yeah, I have changed, because now I'm more of a kind of a combination between him and, Robert Kiyosaki, Grant Cardone, those types of people. And that's not for everybody. You just have to do what's best for you. I have the good debt and bad debt, the high credit card and, taking out loans for all these trips and boats and all that. Yes, I'm anti that, but debt that we can use to leverage and make more money, as long as you know what you're doing, I'm more for that. But if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have people that can help you, or you don't have the resources, then I would try to stay as debt free as possible.
I love it. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that with us, Jeff. Now, if we're looking at the future, 5, 10 years from now, what is Dr. Anzalone up to? Like, what does life look like? What's the picture? Paint it for us.
Yeah, next year we'll be an empty nester. I've got a son that actually playing football here at University of Louisiana Monroe, and my other son plays tennis in high school. He'll be graduating next year. And my wife told me that she doesn't want me at home all the time. So, and I don't either. I'm the type of person that, that wants to work. But I'm starting, I'll be 50 next month. I'm starting to the process of transitioning out of my practice to do real estate full time, to continue building, to growing our group called the Blue Metro Group, RV Park Group, starting to add some coaching to help people with, pretty much going down the path of financial freedom, just literally just taking what I've done, shortcut it, minus all the mistakes and failures, and then just get them started on the road. it's hard to go out 10 years because I know that about every 5 years from my experience, things completely change. Talking to a 10-year-old is a whole lot different conversation than talking to a 15-year-old, So that's why I don't really go much further out than 5 years. But private equity is buying up all the dental and medical practices, and we've already had some contact us about buying our portfolio. So as of now, what we're going to do is keep growing our portfolio. And then if it makes sense and we get an offer we can't refuse, we're going to do a roll up. And, all the investors that are in with us, will get a piece of that. And then after that, who knows what'll happen. But I would say that's the 5-year plan.
I love it. Well, and the thing that I heard that was resonating throughout that whole thing is options. And options do not come to those who don't take action and who don't have a big enough why, as you led this whole thing off, to say, man, something's got to change. I can't continue to put my family and myself in this kind of risky situation. And what the risk, Tribe, as we're talking about this, I want to wake you up. I want to shake you a little bit, right? If you don't have multiple streams of income, you're putting yourself at risk. It's not only abdicating the responsibility to take the cash, the surplus that God's given you, and to make it grow, like to give it the opportunity to be more than what it was.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
the parable of the talent.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. The parable.
Exactly.
If you don't know what that is, you can Google it or look in your Bible. But that's the perfect example of what you just said.
Well, Jeff, I feel like I could talk for hours with you. You've been amazing. How can people get in touch with you? They want to learn more about you, or Debt Free Doctor or Blue Metric Group.
Yeah, they could go, the debtfreedoctor.com. It's got, I'm really more active on YouTube and Instagram, pretty much all of my content now. Because when I go to meetings, people come up to me and go, hey, I watched your videos, I do this and that. And they're saying that the most. So now I'm putting more time, energy, and resources on YouTube, because that's how I learn from people. Because there's something about watching a video and watching somebody like this versus reading an article. But all the links are on my website, debtfreedoctor.com. It's just all the information that I'm putting out now is mainly from people reaching out to me. Somebody just messaged me and said, can you do a video on the lazy 1031 exchange? Okay. It's really easy to make content because I just help my list with what they want. So provide value, whatever you're doing right now, lead with value. Most people, sometimes you'll look at your phone and you'll see somebody calling you like, I wonder what they want, because there's certain people, only reason they call you because they want something. Don't be that guy. Be the person that leads with value, help people. I mean, just take a look at what I did. I just literally took a bad thing, ski accident, look at what I learned, and now I'm helping people. And you never know what doors God is going to open and what doors he's going to close. But like you've been saying the whole time, Joey, you have to take action.
I love it. Tribe, this is a bit of an amazing episode. Great to meet you, Jeff, and thank you for sharing your story. Tribe, if you found value in today's podcast, if you'll do us a favor to share it, like it, review our podcast so that we can continue to provide value to the rest of the world and beat the big tech algorithm. Have an amazing day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand, so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.